Hello and welcome to the Denver Astrology Meetup podcast with me, Bren, Rosalie, and Zane. And we also have a few other amazing guests today because we're doing a recap of our last weekend's meetup, which was a panel of professional astrologers, which we have a few of them here today. We're really excited to introduce you to. Today we are recording on August 20th on Mercury's day. Mercury's currently in Leo and it is 9:40 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And without further ado, we would love to introduce ourselves. Again, my name is Bren. I use they, them pronouns, and I am a professional astrologer, tarot reader, psychic, and pole dance instructor. I am a Pisces Sun, Aries Moon, Aries Rising, and Aquarius Mercury. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be here. And my specialty is really in intuitive astrology, things like that. So those are the input that I would like to share with y'all today. And I'd love to pass the floor to Moses next. Hi, Moses.
Hi. Hey guys, my name is Moses. I am an astrologer and tarot reader based in Denver, Colorado. I focus mainly on business and leadership astrology with a background as a youth pastor and a DEI consultant.
With what pronouns?
He, him.
And placements?
Ooh, I have Virgo Sun, Cancer Moon, Scorpio Rising, and then Mercury in Libra.
Yay! Ooh. And then Sean?
Hi, my name's Sean Marshall with Future Pace Coaching and Consulting. I am a mindset coach who uses astrology and chart readings to help guide my clients towards empowerment. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My sun and moon are conjunct in the 9th house of Leo. My ascendant is Scorpio with Mars hanging out there as well, and my Mercury is Virgo in the 10th, pretty close to the midheaven.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about me.
Love
Cool.
that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Hello everybody, you guys know me. I'm Zane. I go by he, him pronouns. I'm a Libra Sun, Gemini Moon, Pisces Rising, and a Libra Mercury. I am a professional astrologer. I do tarot as well. And during my readings, I've noticed it's like half intuition, half calculations. I always start my readings off with just figuring out where my client is in this current moment and what's going on in their life. And similar to Sean, I kind of just do life coaching where I use the stars as my support.
Hell yeah. And then, hi, hello, I'm Rosalie, they, them pronouns, with a Virgo Sun and Mercury, as well as a Sagittarius Moon and an Aquarius Rising. I am a professional astrologer, body piercer, and tattoo apprentice. I'm a very technical astrologer, so I will 1000% look back to the cycles of your life. If you're going through something right now, we'll find out the problem planet and then just track it through time, see when was its last time hit and stuff, and when it's next time to do the same shit that's happening now, so that you understand a little bit more of where you're at in the current realm. Yeah. Of your broader timeline of all the planets doing the things.
I did just recommend one of my clients to you because you're really good. They're starting a business, and I was like, if you want an electional chart for that, go to you.
I'm not an electional astrologer. Please do not actually come
Really?
to me for electional astrology things. That makes my head hurt, and I'm not prolific in it, but thank you.
My bad. Anyone else here an electional astrologer?
I will do it, don't get me wrong.
I feel like if anyone, you would be the best person. That's why I recommended
Well,
you.
if we're talking about like specific like niches of astrology, don't you work a lot in like business astrology?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I track a lot of timing through people's like personal charts and what transits are hitting in their personal charts as compared to like when do we want to start the business.
Hell yeah, and that was like one of our last questions, and that was like your first, she like came with that question, you were like, do you know when you started your business, was like the first thing you spoke into the mic, so.
Absolutely.
So you would be actually a good person for me to recommend then for that kind of thing. Okay, I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, if they do come by me, I'll just be like, hi, Moses.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Oh hey, Moses.
Oh hey.
So before we actually get a little bit too deep into what we talked about in the presentation and during the panel, we wanted to go over a couple disclaimers real quick. Astrology has very many approaches. As you can tell just from our introductions alone, each individual astrologer has like a very different way, and we are not here to judge, we are not here to gatekeep, we are not here to say that's not how you do astrology. So that is disclaimer number one, and then our second disclaimer is just that conversations are meant to be inclusive, respectful, mindful of identity and culture, as well as personal experiences in astrology. So that was something that we made very abundantly clear to our participants in the group meeting, to be like, yo, we are not here to tell you when you're gonna die, that you're making horrible life decisions and life mistakes. We're gonna ask more questions about your life than like interpret it all kind of jazz, which I feel like was the vibe.
Yeah. Cool.
But hell yeah, and then you want to Zane, jump into our astro weather for this week?
Yeah, absolutely. So some current astro weather going on. We are still in the shadow period of Mercury retrograde. I've noticed that the shadow periods bring a lot more technological issues, tension, and just miscommunication. You think a lot of that would come during the retrograde, but the retrograde itself is more for reanalysis, reviewing, and consideration. The shadow period is tough, but we're almost there. It's going to leave shadow the 25th. After that, we have Saturn moving back into Pisces. So the past 3 years of that Saturn and Pisces story is definitely continuing. We're not over just yet. But this time around, Jupiter will be making a sign-based trine with Saturn. The past year, it was making a square, lots of tension between like growing and structure. However, these ideas will flow a lot better together until February, when Saturn moves into Aries for real this time.
And Saturn won't be back into Pisces until 2052.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind. This is a big ending of a cycle. A lot about reassessing your boundaries when it comes to Pisces land. Wherever Pisces is in your chart, however that's hitting your life, things like that.
Well, and we've had a little taste of Aries, or Saturn in Aries, which is like a new start that's coming on, but also it's like we're in that retrograde period now, so now it's like, okay, we're reviewing this new start, and is it in alignment with that Pisces Saturn energy too? Like, what boundaries do we need to have in place there?
Well, like any planet going through the Pisces Aries transition is so like interesting, tough, and like rich and full of energy. But with Saturn, I feel like it was just a slap in the face of like a reality check, kind of getting hit with like some of that karma we've built up over the past few years. And I think with Saturn going back into Pisces, we're really taking what we learned this summer and implementing it to tie up any loose ends from this Saturn and Pisces story.
Totally.
Yeah, I think of it as like a brutal winter. If you think of that like Pisces season, you go from brutal winter into spring and having to deal with like the fallout from that winter, and then now we're revisiting sort of the themes and the lessons that we had to learn from that like Saturn and Pisces period.
Totally.
I like it.
And you're experiencing your second Saturn return, right?
About to.
Hell yeah. Well, yeah, close. And I know that's one of our first like questions, so I don't want to like jump with the gun too much. But I don't know, how do you feel that Saturn in Aries has been for you personally so far?
You know, I'm still feeling more Saturns in Pisces because the structure in which I've built my world seems to want to dissolve a little bit and encourage new frames and new boundaries and new routines. Certainly, that's where I'm being pulled to.
Well, and that makes
energetically.
perfect sense with Neptune being conjunct Saturn right now. Neptune is that planet of dissolving, so even though, you know, Saturn and Neptune are in Aries now, it still is going to have that flavor of Pisces.
Whoop, whoop. Yep, I don't get a Saturn return without the influence of Neptune.
We love Neptune.
You had your first go-around without it, but this round Neptune will be
different.
pretty solidified in that same sign.
Yeah, and I've got a natal Neptune in the 12th in Libra, so all sorts of balancing.
He's in the 12th in Cap. Wow.
All sorts of balancing illusions for me. Yeah,
What degree is that Neptune at?
it's a later degree, probably around. Yeah,
Well, you have Mars and Scorpio in the first too,
Yep.
ruling that Saturn as well.
yeah.
Lots of disillusionment.
Neptune,
Lots
you
of
mean?
no.
Oh, wait.
Oh, he has Mars in the first.
Oh,
Mars
right,
and Scorpio
yeah.
in the first, ruling over Saturn and Aries.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to November when Saturn stations direct in Pisces, because I have a Pisces rising, so this is my first house. Every time there's a stationing with Saturn, something big happens in my life. Last year, after it stationed retrograde, I moved to Denver 2 days later. And then when it stationed direct later that fall, I registered my LLC. So I'm really looking forward to see like what this one will bring.
And then the next little thing of astro weather is
Eclipses.
talking
Eclipse
about
season.
Pisces energy. So although
And
Saturn,
Virgo.
Yeah. Well, of course, obviously. But where we have Saturn ingressing back into the sign of Pisces, we're also going to be having eclipses with Saturn's influence during this end of this year, this time. So I think that it's a lot of, with that Virgo Pisces, embodiment versus escapism. Where are you physically retaining like the actual reality of your life, and where are you kind of getting lost in the chaos of it all?
Totally. Well, yeah, and like with the nodal placements itself, like the North Node, the growing of energy, it's in Pisces, and then the diminishing of energy, the South Node is in Virgo. So it's like that push of like, how are we growing these Piscean kind of qualities in a way that's healthy rather than, you know, like, let's choose dreaminess over escapism. Let's choose, you know, compassion over, you know, victimhood or whatever. But that also is like the same kind of conversation that we should be asking ourselves within the Virgo. It's like, what do we need to release? Like, are we being too perfectionistic? Are we being too analytical, breaking things down, trying to control too much? I've definitely been feeling a lot of that myself too, as a Pisces heavy person.
Building off of what you just said, though, during this eclipse season, I think we're going to be leaning a lot more into like our intuition and what our inner answers are saying, rather than leaning into the Virgo spoken communication and body language. Obviously, it's still necessary to communicate and like talk to people, get answers, but deep down, if you have a feeling about something that you just can't shake, it's better to trust it rather than like convincing yourself about the other person's communication.
Totally.
From a traditional standpoint, both of the nodes are malefic. So the North Node will corrupt through excess, and the South Node will corrupt through deficiencies. So it's just looking at if you have too much excess of that self-victimhood martyr complex in Pisces, then yeah, it's going to bite you in the ass. And if you have too much control, I guess in the Virgo sense, it's also going to, or not enough control, I guess, it's going to show you.
Yeah.
It's like so one of the ways I look at the nodes is kind of similar, but it's like the North Node is where we're really ambitious and hungry, and how that can bite us in the ass. And then also the South Node can be quite comfortable, is what I've noticed. And a lot of people, yes, I agree with the malefic nature of the South Node. And also, I think that when you find yourself in a lot of South Node patterns, they're quite comfortable. They're not really pushing you to grow or to change. And, you know, comfort's the enemy of progress. One of the things that I find interesting, like, my husband and I, we have a lot of South Node interactions in our chart. And it is, like, the comfiest, coziest, like, sweetest little, like, nest egg.
I feel like in Sinistry it's so cute.
Yeah, it's super cute in Sinistry, and it really changed the way that I look at the South Node in general, to take it away from being like South Node bad. With North Node can be just as bad, like you're saying, it's malefic nature.
They're
it's
extremes.
Like, we are so prone to like push for progress and like be hard on ourselves, and that's also quite a Virgoan thing to do. Right, so like that radical sense of like Piscean self-acceptance that can come is a good cure or remedy for that like South Node Virgo kind of energy.
No, 100% I agree.
This is actually my natal return of my node path.
Really?
Right now. So yeah, I like to look at this as an opportunity to, my view of the South Node is the more I try to do South Node things, I'm naturally going to feel blocked.
Ooh.
And so it's a cue for me. Yes, it's comfortable. Yes, it's my gift. Yes, I need to tend to it. But if I try and get too much out of my South Node, there's just going to be this natural intuitive block. And it's that block in Pisces that says, okay, Virgo, it's time to let go of the illusion of control. It's time to have some faith and trust. And to be intentional with that node growth path. How I like to coach my clients is I like to say, okay, let's attempt to do North Node activities, but bring in the South Node structure that's naturally your gift.
Oh yeah, balancing and using that access to mitigate those extremes.
So an example for me right now is as I meditate, I'll meditate to a series. Like I'll meditate through the tarot cards. So I give myself the Virgo structure, yet I'm engaging into the trust and intuitive process of the meditation.
I love that.
Hell yeah.
On a mundane level, something that I've predicted, like when the nodes first moved into these signs, is I'm wondering if certain governments are going to try to like silence and like sweep things under the rug, certain actions of theirs, and hiding away some of that Virgo communication, news, media, propaganda. It's kind of like just Pisces like secrecy a little bit. Also, I'm wondering if there's going to be a lean towards holistic healing for the world rather than
I think so. I think...
Yeah.
Sorry, I posted a video about the new moon in Virgo already, and one of the things I was like, it's dismantling the healthcare system and how it doesn't work.
The
so
South
I
Node,
feel like, culturally speaking, so many indigenous tribes and indigenous cultures have ways of medicine that would fix all of our modern day problems, but we've repressed them and labeled them as barbaric methods, and because of that we've lost so much knowledge. And I feel like this is going to be a time where we're finally getting back into that, where we're going back to the holistic side of things.
Absolutely. It's kind of like the South Node in Virgo, kind of like getting away from science, getting away from all that information, and trusting more of the soul and the spirit to do the healing.
It's also the bigger picture. Pisces is big picture, Virgo is details. So that balance of what do we have to do in the day-to-day small details to make the big picture that we actually are looking for?
Right.
We can't lose sight of the big picture with the small things, and vice versa.
Well, another transit, if we're good.
I'm going to make one small last note on the eclipses before we move on. Eclipses are always a time of change, and it's setting it's changing and setting the circumstances for the next 6 months until the next set of eclipses. So ever since the nodes moved into these signs, you should be having this story, and throughout eclipse season, the plot will just be unfolding even more, setting us up for again the next 6 months. That's just a quick little rundown of eclipses.
I just want to piggyback off of like taking those like broader themes and bringing them into the personal, because I feel like Venus is going to give us the opportunity to kind of see that for ourselves, because Venus is a personal planet, and on August 23rd or August 26th, it's making a opposition with Pluto, a trine with Neptune, and a sextile to Uranus all on the same day. As soon as it ingresses into Leo, it's getting like slammed with outer planet transits. But this is a point where we can communicate with those outer planet needs on a personal level to see those big, broader themes that Bren was talking about and bringing them into a personal level, or taking those personal themes and connecting them to your community or to the bigger picture to be like, for example, marriage equality is being such like sought after and stuff, and it's like, yeah, they come for trans people first, and then they're going to come for the rest of the LGBT community, and then they're going to come for anybody. Like, everybody's next. Like, there's no saving yourself. So it's just kind of those internalized moments of like, oh, I need to actually treat people with fucking basic kindness and respect for their individual senses, and I feel like that's collectively slapping everybody in the face, which has been nice.
What day is that? The 26th, you said? Which is during the new moon energy, right, as well. So this is also this new energy, or like new moon. Any new moon is like a time to plant like a new intention or a seed for something. So just know that with that energy that Rosalie just described, it's also an opportunity for us to kind of like still see things from a new perspective and maybe like set a new goal or something with that energy.
Venus and Leo too, while it's going through all of this. So I think there's something to be said about not being afraid of taking up space, about letting your ego shine and not assuming that you can't take up space or be seen for your own authenticity, especially when we're talking about issues like marriage equality or any of those parts.
I feel like there's a lot of heightened sensitivity in general. Just, well, with the Aries Neptune too, because Saturn's there as well. I don't mean to not talk about Saturn in this, because Saturn's also going to be in that trine to Venus as well. But I feel like that just kind of like disillusionment era.
Yeah. Well, Venus rules like harmony, peace, and like alliance, and with it going under so much like energy and transformation, I think globally, certain countries and alliances will change for the better or for the worse.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, we'll see.
And then, of course, Venus can represent like things that we enjoy, our hobbies, certain like expressions of enjoyment. So on this day, if you want to access transformation and all those outer planet themes, really try to do something that you enjoy, do something that you value, that you love, and you'll be able to connect with those outer planets.
Well, and also this new moon, I do have one more thing. This new moon that we're about to have, like coming up literally in a few days, is probably already active by the time this is released. But that is like kind of the entrance to eclipse season specifically too. It's like, it's already kind of here, but it's like, hey, this is like the great reveal. Like, what is this going to be about? You know?
So what advice would you give for people on the day of the new moon?
For this new moon, I would always say, like, take care of your immune system, especially when anything with Uranus, I don't know, there's just a lot of change, there's just a lot of activity, and Virgo is all about the body too, so the physicality, health, things like that. So I would just, maybe this is a great time for you to have a new health routine of some kind with whatever house Virgo is associated with in your chart. So for me, it's like 6th house, so Virgo, you know, it's like I probably should do like a health thing, whereas like a 1st house Virgo, well, they would probably want to do the same thing, but you know, maybe a 10th house Virgo would want to start something new, like health-wise within their career or their big picture legacy.
Gotcha.
That's what I would recommend.
Nice. I like it.
That'd
yeah.
be me, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be really relevant to you with all your Virgo energy.
Well, you want to tie that into how Virgo shows up in tarot for us real quick?
Yes, I do. So we are entering Virgo season, and as we always do, we talk about the tarot cards associated with each zodiac season that we are entering. And since we are entering Virgo season, the tarot cards that are associated with that is the Hermit card. Also, by proxy, the Magician, which I actually, we didn't
talked about
We
that.
did talk about it.
But we didn't put it up there.
Yeah. The Magician rules Mercury, the planet, of communication, things like that. And then the Hermit is the Virgo card, which, talks about, the smaller picture, the step-by-step, like that inner light that you follow. You can't see the big picture because it's dark outside, but you have your lantern, you have your inner compass, kind of like we were talking about earlier, to guide you. You want to talk a little bit about the decans within the 8, 9, and 10?
Yes, the Eight of Pentacles is very much the apprenticeship card. It's very much like, what work do you still have to put in to get this shit done? Like, where are you still, the humble mastery phase, if you will. And then we get the Nine of Pentacles, which is like you think you got it, but you ain't there quite yet, Like, you might have that mastery, but it's the comfort of earned success. And then the Ten of Pentacles is where you get that kind of, like, fulfillment on that
Retirement. It's material abundance.
Retirement. That's a great way of describing it. Material abundance. The accumulation of all of your efforts in the past. So it's like
Over
the work
time.
that you put through it to gain that mastery, the comfort that you instill from that mastery, and then the kind of mindset that you get post-mastery.
Well, and these are all associated really great with Virgo because Virgo is very much like, it is a working card. Like, it's mercurial. It wants to do stuff. It's very active. And it's also a sign of service. So I feel like that 8, 9, and 10 of Pentacles also tells that story of like, okay, our hard work pays off in the material realm. Then we can have our inner rewards. And then from there, that 10 of Pentacles, the ultimate, like, then we share it as well. It's like the retirement. What do you leave behind once your mortal body is gone, once your material body is gone, so.
I could also see the Ten of Pentacles being like a mentor.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
taking on like a mentor role in order to teach that Eight of Pentacles apprentice energy to like carry on that trade, that specialized interest, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you guys have something you want to say?
So the Hermit is really interesting to me because I think about Moses, not me Moses, Bible Moses.
Bible Moses.
But Venus and Leo does it show. But what I can say is there's the story of Moses going up to the top of the mountain to retrieve the 10 Commandments because the people just constantly kept making mistakes. So that represented like a moment where he goes to the top of the mountain to find alone time to communicate with God, and he comes back with 10 set up, established rules that the people have to follow, which is very Virgoan in its own sense.
Wow. And 10.
Yeah.
10
Can
is
I
top
just
10.
real quick make a little comment about the 10 Commandments that has nothing to do with anything that we're talking
Sure.
about?
Yes,
Why
please.
are the first 4 commandments all about, hey, I'm God, you gotta pay attention to me first and foremost? And then as like a fucking afterthought at the end, he throws in, oh yeah, maybe don't murder other people too.
Right.
He's like, hi, I am the only God that exists. You can only pay attention to me. You have to worship me every Sunday, keep it holy. Like the first like couple of commandments are very him focused. He's so...
Is God a Leo?
The Abrahamic God is so egotistical
Virgo-
in my
Virgo
opinion. I'm so
is-
sorry.
Virgo is followed by Leo, or I don't know how to say that. Virgo
Virgo, yeah.
Follows Leo.
Follows Leo. So after getting through all of Leo, of like really understanding the self and like showing the self, that's when you finally move into articulating the self in Virgo. So I think what we're saying, like the 10 Commandments being the first 4, hey, I'm God, is Leo going into Virgo.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see that.
Which you learned that kind of stuff in the book that I gave you. later
I
on.
love that. I love it so
But
much.
speaking of the...
Well, did Sean, do you
Oh,
want to
sorry.
say
Yeah,
something?
so I love the Virgo energy. I like to think of it as having one foot in spirit and one foot in matter.
Oh.
And
It's the
so
magician. That's the
beautiful,
magician,
yeah.
right?
And so it's the final of the path. It's like, okay, here I am. I understand my conscious mind. I understand my unconscious mind. They're actually communicating and allowing me to connect with higher self. So on the mountaintop, we are at that point where we have one foot in matter, one foot in spirit. And because we are there with that humble mastery, we've shown and shined the light for others. So we're just simply one step in front of the other so we can show the way.
I love that.
It's It's
he's
kind of
also,
like the
chiseling. He's literally chiseling it into like
Stone,
stone.
yeah.
Is all.
Wow.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. I was just gonna say it's like the words that we're saying during prayer. It's like words and magic at the same time.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you can't have one end of the wheel without the other. We talk
Exactly.
a lot about this, how like you can't have Virgo without Pisces. It's the balance of both. And so
So connecting with nature and the seasons real fast.
Yes.
Virgo season is the first harvest, and if you think about it, it's mutable earth. We're taking our earth and dividing it up into smaller portions. And that brings us into Libra, where we allocate and distribute those resources amongst other people. And so during this time, obviously we're not out harvesting, but what you can do is really take a moment to understand what resources you do have, what resources you need, and how to get through the winter with what you have. What kind of plan are you setting up for yourself? Mutable Earth is also at the end of summer, so this is when the summer starts to change, and it's leading us into the cold breath of fall, the cold breath of Libra, and so we're just preparing ourselves to get out of the luminaries and kind of get more into like the darker side of the wheel. Yeah.
One last thought with Virgo, since Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, Gemini being the more air sign or the more cerebral sign of our intelligence, Virgo representing almost the intelligence of the gut and intelligence of the body, and just listening to the intuition of our body to actually, and taking direction from those messages.
totally.
Yeah, I like it. With Virgo, what I like to say is becoming more detailed with our intentions, communication, and logic. And so just really take a second to ask yourself, what is it that you're actually doing? Are you sticking to your plan? And how can you be more communicative with yourself and with others? I think that will really help you tap into the rich Virgo energy.
Totally.
How fucking yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Then with that,
We finally get into
Into
it.
the meetup.
Yes.
no, we timed it well. We got a good half hour left.
I like it.
So going into some of the meetup questions that were asked, I took as best notes as I could while we were all having a discussion, but it wasn't open-ended discussion, so there will be a lot of things that obviously we're not going to be able to get to. But the first question was from Claire, our regular...
And before we get into that, can we also just give a shout out to Sara, this other panelist that was here? We did not introduce her. She uses she, her pronouns as well. And yeah, did you want to introduce more?
Don't worry, I'm gonna it's one-on-one interview Sarah. She's gonna get her spot in the limelight. She just couldn't make it today. She's got to work, unfortunately. Womp womp.
Yeah, we're
Capitalism.
on a
Wednesday morning, yeah.
Didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to give a shout out.
That is
Sara
so
did
good.
contribute a lot, and we will maybe have some of the things that she had said. We're going to offer that to you as well if it comes up in
I was
conversation.
talking shit right next to her like the entire time, and like forcing her to like speak things. So I will
She was
try.
so shy for no reason. I'm like, dude, you're so wise.
It's
like,
because she's so like poetic. And
it's the
she's,
Pisces
like,
moon. It's the Pisces moon. Such a softie.
and she's very. I have her chart actually pulled up too.
But she's so Leo.
Yeah.
So Leo.
But it's her second house because she's a Cancer rising.
Yeah.
So it's below the horizon.
So she's ruled by that Pisces.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So.
Okay, but anyway, I digress. Sarah will be having their own little implemental. We're still figuring out exactly what we want to talk about, but I will have like a full ass interview with Sarah, so she will get her 2 cents in here, and I will try my best to speak on her behalf. But if you're more interested, the Divine Field, we will link her all in the show notes still. So, with that being said, our first question was asked by Claire, who's actually a really close friend with Sarah, and one has been on our podcast in the past. Claire asked Sean specifically about his Saturn in Aries, just for like perspective on that second hit. I don't know if you want to,
Because I know Claire wanted to know. Claire's like an Aries.
Saturn
a Saturn
as well.
Aries person, so she's going through her first Saturn return, and so she kind of like seemed to be wanting to know like what's the difference between the first and second Saturn return. It seemed like that was part of it too, and how she might experience it.
Yeah, the second Saturn return is basically making sure you got the lessons from the first time around. And so being mindful of your cycles, being mindful of the rhythms, being mindful of the situations that by taking ownership, you can say, I created this. This is nobody else's responsibility but my own. It's going to show up in a different way. For me, heading into my second Saturn return, I look at my 56-year-old body and I'm sitting there going, oh gosh, I've got pain in certain parts of my body. I need to be paying attention to this, and I need to be doing strength and certain physical routines so that my body doesn't go through another moment like it did in my first Saturn return, where I just had this health crisis.
Because your Saturn, your natal Saturn is in the 6th house, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So did you have like some health concerns both cycles?
First time around for sure. Second time around, I'm not quite there yet. I'm not in that second Saturn return. It's around the corner. It's just not quite there, and I'm okay with it.
Well, can I actually ask you guys, this is bringing up, you've said that a few times, and I would actually disagree as an astrology.
Also would disagree.
I think that your Saturn return starts the minute that your Saturn enters the sign that it's in, like, natally. So
I feel like it's just starting to ripple the waves. It
Yeah.
might not be like the big slap
Yeah.
in the face, this is your Saturn
The way
return
that I
moment.
see it is like Saturn going into Aries is turning on the radio, but as it gets closer to the exact conjunction,
turning
you're
up.
turning up the
Yes.
volume.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And it's quincunx my Mars in my first, so that's a relationship that is a little disjointed by nature. So
We'll talk about that. That's a whole question, and I also have the exact same chart placements, but in different houses.
What
so.
degree is your Saturn?
I couldn't. I don't look at the charts to that.
Would you say like
finite
first,
review.
middle, or like third chunk of Aries? That's okay.
It's-
No
yeah.
worries.
Yeah.
We'll look at it later.
Because the reason I ask is Saturn only entered the first degree of Aries, and so like depending on if it's at like the later end, obviously you have like a little bit of time to go into 2026 for that exact Saturn return.
And,
Yeah.
and in my sidereal chart, it's not even in Aries yet.
Oh.
Which is another, and was the follow-up question to Claire's, is do you use primarily sidereal or tropical astrology?
Yeah, which is, I use both. You know, in the physical manifestation, which would be my body, I would be leaning towards the tropical to get an idea of what psychology is keeping me stuck in a pattern or a rhythm. I would look at my sidereal chart.
Got it.
Oh, yeah.
So
well, you also, you did, I think it was you who explained in the meetup, like, what is the difference between tropical and sidereal? I think that's, like, kind of important to share to people who might not know.
You know, one tropical starts on the 1st of spring, and there's a wobble to the Earth's orbit, and every 72 years, that wobble of the Earth's orbit moves that progressive date forward one degree of the chart. And so we're now 2,000 years past the Ptolemaic times when we started using tropical orientation, and we're now 27 degrees separate between sidereal and tropical.
Yeah. Because tropical astrology starts, like you said, on the spring equinox, and every so many years the equinoxes move up a day. So there's that separation.
And I think I had asked you what Ayasha you use, and you just use Fig and Bradley, like the standard.
You know, it's I use true sidereal.
Oh, it's not like an option on that, yeah, because it's
so it's a very specific software.
it is
that
on
I use.
AstroSeek, I believe, .com. I think Peter over at AstroSeek does have true sidereal in his calculation. Don't quote me on that, but I'm almost 1,000% sure that man has calculated fucking everything. But
I'll look at it because I've been using a software called Prometheus.
Prometheus is another good one too
Yeah.
that I was gonna say, but there's a paywall, isn't there?
Actually, they're having some troubles right now with support. So my teacher, Athen Chiminetti, with Mastering the Zodiac, has designed his own software,
hell
and
yeah.
it launches this week.
Ooh.
So I'll be transitioning over to that as soon as that's available, and that's $15 a month.
Yo, if you want to give us a link, we can
Yeah.
throw that in our show notes
Cool.
for anybody else who might be interested in that. Because there is a difference. The Ayashas are essentially just saying, okay, in sidereal astrology, what starts Aries then? Like, what is the true Aries point? And it's all about, like, finding those exact things. And true sidereal astrology is, like, what the exact hottest day of the, like, where the sun is its brightest or something like that.
So it's going to reference the actual size of the constellations.
Oh.
And so if you can imagine that in tropical, we use 30 degrees there's 30 degrees for Virgo and 30 degrees of a house. Some systems will expand it a little bit differently, either the house or the sign. The true sidereal says, okay, Virgo occupies, what is it, over 60 degrees in the sky.
Isn't it the biggest?
Oh,
So-
so constellational astrology.
Yeah.
It's more based on that for sure. And
Okay.
so what happens is if you look at your sidereal chart, you're likely going to have a different sun sign. Not always. I happen to be Leo in both. But Leo happens to be a very big constellation.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of curious and fun too to see people's response to the attachment that they may or may not have had to their tropical sun sign. And what I do find is that there's elements of truth in both. It's just, what is my intention for using either tropical or sidereal?
And you use sidereal for more physical stuff and tropical for more intellect stuff?
Flip.
Oh, okay. So sidereal for intellect and then tropical for body.
Yeah, for
Interesting.
for physical manifestation and results.
The exact quote that I stole from you from the meetup is, where are you getting hung up versus what's happening around you? So the hung up part is that sidereal, and then the what's happening around you is the tropical.
So a question that I have for you though is, the second Saturn return that you're about to go through, are you feeling more prepared, like your body already knows what's coming, compared to like not knowing your first time around?
So I feel more psychologically prepared, and I feel that my antennae are open. As when I walked into my first Saturn return, this wasn't even part of my world, and so stuff was happening to me. I didn't know a lot of the natural laws, like perception is interpretation. I didn't know cause and effect. Okay, that's a big one. And so now that I'm armed with not just the 4 big laws, there's actually 56 that I pay attention to. And it's just a matter of going, okay, how am I going to show up empowered no matter what comes at me?
So you're feeling a little bit more prepared compared to the first time?
Psychologically and emotionally, for sure.
Gotcha.
I don't know what's going to come, but I can say whatever comes, I'll be just fine.
I like that.
Oh, yeah.
I asked because I'm still like 3 years away from my first Saturn return, so that whole like realm still very unknown to me.
I'll give a quick example of that mindset in action, and I didn't even realize I was doing it. Back in 2019, I had skin cancer.
Oh, wow.
And I'm
That's very Saturn 6th house, right?
Yeah, very. And so it was some...
Especially
transit.
in Aries, too, because it's so solar, because it's the sun's exaltation. Sorry.
Well, and did you... I'm like, did you have like some sort of like hit
Surgery.
on your Saturn at that time?
I wasn't in this world at the time.
Okay,
I could go back and recreate it, but I was going more towards the mindset of being prepared. And this is what I take into the coaching is... I kept telling myself, I had the results. I had my surgery. They sent everything in for the biopsy, and I was given the choice. Do you want to hear from the nurse, or would you rather hear from the doctor? And I'm sitting there going, well, I don't know how... I know doctors can be more psychologically in tuned for how they deliver news, and so I said, I just want to hear from the doctor. So I had to wait a week to get my results after my surgery. And so I just kept telling myself, mindset, Tuesday will come, and I'll know what to do. Tuesday will come, and I will. So that was my mantra. That was my mindset going into it. So Tuesday came, and I knew exactly what was needed based on whatever was going to come my way. So what I'm talking about is a little NLP technique called managing the anxiety frame within, and I didn't even realize I was doing it.
Wow.
And so we use these tools for empowerment. And then I later learned, oh my gosh, I was doing this tool
Without even knowing it?
Without even knowing it. And so
That's so good.
This is the cool thing. And the biopsy came back just fine. But I look back at that going, I could have been spinning my wheels for a week, losing my mind in worry or fear. And I just said, I'll know what to do. I'll know what to do.
Yeah, I feel like that's very Saturn and Aries, because Saturn is technically in its fall in Aries, and like... with what you just said, it's like taking that chaotic Ariesness and just kind of putting structure and like a lid on it, kind of just like silencing that anxiety, that fire. Yeah.
I've been experiencing that a lot with my first like dip into Saturn too, just from personal experience. Like a lot of it has been. It's funny because even during the meetup, I kind of like laughed to myself when you talked about like body versus mind, because I've been way more in depth to yoga. I've been taking my probiotics naturally. Don't take them via pills. Just drink kombucha.
Since your Saturn return.
Since Saturn dipped into Aries, I've been and Saturn's in my 3rd house, so it's like my day-to-day routines. I've noticed that I've been working myself a lot. I've been pushing myself a lot, and I'm burning myself the fuck out. So I'm taking care of my body in that process. And honestly, it's not that bad. I just got off an all-night shift before coming here.
Damn.
And I slept for 3 hours. Not even. I slept for like an hour. And then I'm vibing, though. Like, I made sure that I had a nice, good breakfast before I got over here. You supplied me with beautiful coffee, my second cup for the day. You know, which probably I shouldn't actually intake any more coffee. But I've been trying to, like, actually take care of what I'm putting into my body, first and foremost. So that, because I know that it's going to dip back into Pisces, and I know that this isn't quite the start of my Saturn return. I'm trying to, like, instill those day-to-day routines now, though, so that they solidify for the next 30 years, hopefully.
That's good to know that that's some of the stuff you're experiencing, because I also have third house Saturn. But one thing that I said during this conversation, during the meetup, was this. I shared an article that I recently read. It's by Lisa Scheim, and she was highlighting the importance of sect in a chart. You know, the argument of a day chart versus night chart is very important in traditional astrology. And in the article, she was saying, for someone's Saturn return, you got to pay attention to the sect. Saturn belongs to a day chart. So if you are going through your Saturn return, you have a day chart, your Saturn return story is going to be a little bit more constructive. It's going to be helpful. Yes, it's going to be stressful. I mean, it's a Saturn return. There's going to be some stress. There's going to be some obstacles. But at the end of the day, you're going to feel a lot more... like, it was very constructive. If you're a night chart going into a Saturn return, it might be a little bit more rough. There might be more tension, leaning more into that destructive side, the severing side of Saturn. You might have to cut some things out. There might be some bad decisions and habits really having karmic consequences, and you will deal with that. So it's, as a night chart for a Saturn return, it should be a little bit more troublesome rather than constructive. So that's one way you can look at your chart and kind of prepare and interpret for a Saturn return.
Well, and Saturn does not deny necessarily. So, you know, you might, especially Aries Saturn, like you're trying to get somewhere and then Saturn's like, no. But maybe by the end, you'll have that reward after being told
So
no.
I love that.
Yeah.
Would you say like Saturn return for a day chart would be more like slow and steady growth, whereas a Saturn return for a night chart would be more of like delays?
I
and,
think
like,
it would
blockages?
depend on the
Yes.
sign as well.
That's fair.
I didn't experience it when I have Saturn in Aquarius. So when I had I'm a day chart, Saturn in Aquarius for me, like
What house?
fourth house.
Oh, yeah.
And I almost lost my
I get it,
apartment.
too.
I was with in a relationship during COVID. That would just went awful, like awful. For all of the right reasons, which is ultimately like it caused me to confront my values and what my values around home life and like domestic life were.
Fourth house.
And like how I wanted to live a family life. But I will say, like, it was incredibly intense. It didn't feel constructive.
Just because you have a day chart doesn't mean your Saturn return.
Hey,
Yeah.
you have an angular chart, though, too, which
Yeah.
brings into Sarah's thing, but you'll talk
Totally. No, you're okay. But it felt constructive after. And
Gotcha.
that was the biggest thing, is after that Saturn left Aquarius, I met the man who's now my husband. I like got way more stable in home life, and it caused me to confront a lot of just mental health things as well throughout that entire period.
Because you said you have an Aquarius fourth house.
Aquarius fourth house, yeah.
Any fourth house transit, I just find to be so like transformative but intense, because it's really connecting to like
Your
deep
roots.
rooted stuff, and
Yeah.
it sounds like you connected to Saturn's side of like severance and like clearing things out to bring new energy in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like it was, you know, in Aquarius too, it was a lot about like, what are my values and who are my people? From a really big like thematic standpoint, it's like just because you have similarities with people doesn't always inherently make them your tribe.
Right. Well, especially talking about like the parental axis too, like what have your parents ingrained in you
Yes.
versus like what are you owning as your unique
Wait,
self?
Sarah had shared such great advice about her own natal chart that, oh my god, is so, like, in retrospect, because we didn't have this conversation at the meetup, right? Sarah had talked about her natal Saturn in Libra in the fourth house. I have her chart pulled up here for you guys. Her sun is in Leo in the second house. Her Venus is in Virgo in the third house. But that Saturn is conjunct Pluto in Libra in the fourth house. So another air sign fourth house thing. She talked about how she has both daddy and mommy problems. And that was, like, the big part of, like, not only her Saturn opposition the first time Saturn was in Aries, but also her Saturn return later in life, and how those like harsh aspects kind of all thematically kind of play along with each other. Mia, our first example chart, I think Moses, you had said something that had her like clapping up and down in her chair and being like, yes, that is so...
Well, Mia was also talking about Saturn. Her question was kind of asking, like, okay, well, I had Saturn transiting my 6th house, and why did that impact, or 5th house, and then I think Saturn would then be in Aries in the 6th. But anyway, like, why was I going through certain relationship issues during that time? Saturn 5th, 6th.
Means right.
Oh,
because she had specifically talked about, like, 3 years ago was whenever those, like, relationship issues started coming to light. And yes, Saturn was going through the 5th, which does deal with aspects of, like, romance and love and connection, but also Uranus would have been very close or near her descendant during that time. And, like, I am a Scorpio rising with her, and that was one of the things I immediately recognized from her question. I was like, no, wait, hold on, it's not just Saturn. She mentioned that there were relationship issues coming back around this time as well. And I really pointed out just the Uranus impact. And while, you know, Uranus is a generational planet, it doesn't necessarily carry the heaviest weight in natal charts. I do see something to be said about, like, why instead of choosing the right relationships and making sure you have the right people in your life, more of it being like, what is the consistent pattern that's coming up that's causing me to choose this, with that correlation to the 8th house. I always say the 8th house is how our adult relationships remind us of our mommy and daddy issues.
Ooh.
The 8th house?
Yeah.
Wait, will you say that again?
That's
Like,
crazy.
our 8th house is like how our adult relationships remind us of our mommy and daddy issues.
Wow.
Oh.
As
Holy.
8 houses,
Yeah,
I
no.
didn't need that personal
Me
attack
too.
there, my guy.
I need you to calm down over there.
Yeah, Zane and I are over here.
At least you're conscious about it.
Oh, that doesn't change the fact that you get into those relationship dynamics.
Well,
trust me.
When she was asking this question, we were relating it to Saturn a lot, but I do like what you're saying about the Uranus transit, because for her, as
That's
Scorpio rising, it's in her 7th house. For Taurus, Uranus would have been transiting Taurus for her, which is her 7th house angular, also squaring her natal Uranus down in the 4th in Aquarius. So I can see a lot of, like, deep-rooted things coming up with her and her relationships.
And I use Kosh, and so for me, like, the descendant starts the 7th. So Uranus literally hitting her descendant about 3 years ago would be like the start of Uranus entering the 7th. But the Saturn aspect of it, I think, absolutely plays a part. It just, for me, I think it's a little bit more than just that Saturn for her specifically.
Oh my god, thank you for pronouncing that also. I've been reading that for so long and pronouncing it in my head as Coke.
It's funny.
Coach.
But when we were talking about this, I was talking about the Saturn transit through her 5th, which to me is just honing in and putting in a lot of, like, karma around self-expression, how, like, in Pisces, it's more of, like, what are you hiding and what are you being very authentic about, and what do you need to become more authentic about. I've noticed in readings, anytime you have a transit through a house, it also brings in the themes of the trining houses. So in this case, we're talking about houses 1, 5, and 9, which are, of course...
I've got a book for you.
Okay, cool. I've noticed any house that has a transit, you're gonna bring in the energies of the other two same element trining houses. So in this case, we have 1st house of the self and appearance, perspective of life, the 5th house of self-expression, joy, and drama, and then the 9th house of beliefs. And so I was like, during the last 3 years, there probably has been a lot of changing in karma around all of those themes. And then I brought up Saturn going back into Pisces starting September 1st. I'm like, you're really going to be confronting these issues once again. However, we do have Jupiter trining Saturn this time, sign-based trine. So her beliefs will be much more empowering and helpful rather than restrictive or as an obstacle.
I love that.
Yeah. Especially in November when she has a major, like, grand trine of these planets in these houses for her. I told her that's going to be a time of, like, major self-discovery and major transformation if she chooses to embody and tap into that energy.
Well, and she has her natal Saturn at 23 degrees of Saturn, and so when Pisces Gemini, my apologies.
No, you're good.
When Saturn then retrogrades back into Pisces, it's almost going to hit that
You're
energy.
right.
So it's
Yeah.
going to be squaring her 8th house, which we were just talking about as well, and I know Mia personally, and I know that a lot of the stuff that she's, all of our relationships are based on that parental thing. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting too that that 5th house is also ruled by that Jupiter in the 10th as well, which is part of the parental axis, also activating that natal Saturn in Gemini in the 8th.
With that Saturn squaring natal Saturn in the 8th, I think something I said for November for her would be like, what is she choosing to no longer hide, and what is she choosing to no longer just like keep to herself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Sarah had just brought up that square is probably going to teach her a lot about how her Saturn return is going to go, because those harsh aspects are all going to line up. So to look at the last time Saturn was in Sagittarius, which was 2017, I want to say 2015 to 2017, if I remember correctly. And then looking at that time frame in regards to what's currently happening with Saturn in Pisces to see how her Saturn return is going to go. But one thing that I also did want to mention is Sean made a great point about Saturn and the nodes being co-present with each other.
Yeah, well, more so just because the 8th house is such an integral relationship house, and that's what we were talking about. The node relationship there with her south node in the 8th house and her north node in the 8th house, her south node in the 2nd house, in her relationships, there gets to be for her and anybody with that axis an orientation in the relationship between the manifestation of material goods and how those exchange in the relationship itself. And it's not just material goods, but with the 2nd house there, it can also be of one's identity with their own worth and how that plays out in the 8th house. So if it's an exchange of energy going, gosh, how is my value showing up here for the other? If there's conflict in there, and the node path can be confusing, doesn't have to be, but it can be confusing. And where we have our south node too, we tend to have shadow issues come up. So the south node is one of those places I like to look for shadow issues. She's got it there in the 8th house. And so
The south node is in the 2nd house.
Thank you. South node in the 2nd house. So
And conjunct her Venus specifically, which she was talking
yes.
about love things.
Yeah.
Which plays off her 7th as well. So there's a manifestation. I think Justin had a similar orientation with his nodes
We'll get
as well.
Yeah.
We got one in between, so
It's really interesting to see that the south or Venus rules her 12th and 7th conjunct the south node in the 2nd.
sorry, you okay?
No,
with
you're,
these?
no, you're good. That was my final note.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, let's actually get into Zane's friend, Alex Ann, who
Yes.
came forward with some more Saturn insight. They had Saturn and Pisces questions because they went through a divorce during that time, correct? Yeah. So we had tracked...
Well, because we had said the specific date. So the reason why we're saying like 3 years ago is because about 3 years ago, March 2023, that's when Saturn first entered Pisces. So that's where a lot of this storyline, the Pisces-Saturn storyline started. So that was around the time that she had gone through this divorce, or at least initiated it, and then it happened just a few months later.
Yeah. No, I think it was March into like May it was finalized.
Yeah.
That was like the wildest timeline that's so succinctly. So we looked and we saw that not only was Alex's and Saturn return, but it's Saturn in the 1st house as well. So it's setting boundaries of like, I am me, and I am no longer sacrificing these parts of me to maintain anything besides myself, you know? So...
And also, any axis, again, 1st and 7th house, like any axis, like if your 1st house is activated, it's probably going to activate your 7th house too, because it's like your relationships, things like that. If you change you, the people around you are also going to change, or that dynamic might change.
Well, she went through her divorce in March 2023, or at least started it. And then I remember we were all talking to her, trying to figure out when she met her current partner to see if it aligned with that Saturn ascendant conjunction. And we were asking the wrong question, because we were asking when she met her girlfriend, but she actually became in a partnered relationship with her girlfriend during the conjunction.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, because I had pulled up when Saturn was on her ascendant, like in exactly a year later.
So Saturn conjuncting her ascendant, that's when they committed to each other.
They got into the relationship, not when they met.
Oh, that's sweet.
That's wild.
Did she go through like a... Sorry, this is so off topic, but did she go through like a visual rebrand during that time?
Oh my gosh.
Did she change her aesthetic?
I'm not for sure. I haven't known her for that long.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're really good friends, but I haven't known her for like 3 years, so I'm not for sure about that part. I'll have to ask her.
Gotcha.
But yeah, she...
Great question. Yeah.
I loved how she was asking about this, because I never meet other Pisces risings, and she and her partner are both
Yeah, they're
Pisces
Paris.
risings. I know, but she and her partner are both Pisces rising, so I'm just glad I have them in my life. But I was trying to see if she related to me, because during my Saturn in Pisces story, it was very much like me having my boundaries like transgressed, not respected, but me not understanding and valuing my own boundaries to like uphold them. And Saturn in Aries currently, I've been hit with that karma. So I was just on stage kind of talking about that and asking if she related. Somewhat it did, but it seemed like for her it was a lot of her like setting her boundaries and respecting them. So
you also have to consider she has her natal Saturn there. You don't.
That's fair. That's fair. Her question was mainly like what we think is to come, because she did notice that the Saturn and Pisces story was very significant for her. So what I had predicted is coming up starting next month, she is just going to be solidifying more structures in her life, setting up a lot more boundaries and progress in her life. I see it being very productive for her since her natal Saturn is there.
And Sara had kind of just doubled up on that and just been like, you're going to repeat your Saturn return story still, that November to February time period. You're not quite over with like setting those boundaries fully for yourself yet. So like just focus on that for now.
Yeah. Afterwards, I was talking to her privately and I was saying there's probably going to be a lot of progress in her work, because she started this new job, I want to say like 6 months ago, and she is getting the hang of it, but the training period is like rather long and there's a lot of uncertainty, and she feels like things are starting to go uphill. So I said starting next month with this transit, it's going to be just her leveling up and upgrading in her career, especially in November as Saturn stations direct a degree away from her natal Saturn. So I think that's her getting a major promotion in work.
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Especially Saturn entering her second house of resources and also values, things like that. It's like maybe there's some, again, Saturn doesn't deny, it just delays. So if she's putting in the work, she might have some nice resources in 3 years.
And she's putting in the work all right. She's a hard worker.
I mean, the North Node's there too
Saturn
currently,
first house,
which was something that you had brought up in the meeting too, about how that's going to like influence just the Saturn being in Pisces again with the nodes now co-present.
Well, and the reason why I brought that up in the meetup was because Saturn is very closely opposite her Chiron. And that like Virgo Pisces axis that we've kind of already dabbled in and talked about does show up. For me, when I see Chiron and Virgo, that's something that I have as well, conjunct my midheaven. And like I've definitely repeated stories in my own life about usefulness. And how can I be able to help others, and how can I like do something to support others? And the feeling that sort of comes when you realize that you're not that useful, or when you don't really have anything to contribute or provide. And so seeing that in the 7th house, I just resonate with that a lot. Obviously, there's the standpoint that that could be represented by the other person in her life. And I think her approach to relationships could be very hands-on. So what happens when you can't be hands-on? What happens when you're not needed for that, but you're needed instead for emotional, spiritual presence support? How do you sit with someone and like hold space with someone versus feeling like you have to do, especially with that Mars being in Virgo as well?
Yeah, she's a very hard worker. She works with her hands. She's a roof repair woman. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And that's why I was telling her, because with Pisces, you think of like storms and weather, and like anytime there's a huge storm, that's when she gets her most work.
Oh.
Yeah. And then
I was thinking that more like 7th house Mars, like with the Virgo, like
Fair
just
enough.
Doing.
Yeah. But
Virgo
she's also
things.
just a provider. She is very helpful and provides a lot. So I think with this upcoming Saturn stuff, it's going to be like leveling up of the things and resources that she does provide. Yeah. So we're going to move on to Justin now. He was in our crowd and he asked us about the historical context of like Babylonian culture and paganism, and that being intertwined with astrology.
And for context, he had never looked at his astrology chart, doesn't really know a lot about astrology. So I gave him like a TLDR, real quick little tangent about Chris Brennan's textbook kind of jazz, just saying like, hey, history, we don't have a lot of it. The origins, we Babylonians and Egyptians, and then the Greeks gave us what we know today as our fourfold rule of like houses, signs, aspects, and planets. But the traditional true origins of astrology are lost. womp womp. Blame the Catholic Crusades ruining everything.
I mean, how do we know there are even origins of it? Maybe it's just always been around.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Well, it really did start with, like, the Babylonians just looking up in the sky and being like, what's happening? What's happening? Like, what's happening? What's happening? And
Well,
then just
I mean,
correlating and pattern recognition.
Before we had like concepts of time, that was our clock. We noticed that these things did move throughout the sky. So I think it was just used as a timekeeping tool, and then we started to recognize.
Well, Sean had some really great insights
Yeah.
about the history too. What were the things that you shared?
Well, going back to Babylon, but even the Vedics, they would pass on their tradition of astrology orally. So they did not believe in note
writing
taking
things down.
And they believed in mastery through repetition, mastery through experience, and that was all done through oral interpretations.
Even the things that they did write down, they would, like, troll people. You would have to, like...
Yep.
Like, look at the Pikatrix, for example. Like, that's a huge book of occult magic, but if you don't know your basics on plants and herbology, what you think is a tummy ache medication that you're making is really going to poison and kill you.
So
You know?
I have a quick tangent because you mentioned oral communication. With that, orally things can get confused. Obviously, there are words that sound the same but have different meaning. And one of the most craziest, like the craziest one in astrology, is that on the winter solstice, the sun rises up on the same spot for 3 days on the Crux constellation, the cross. And so you can tell somebody for 3 days the sun has risen off of the cross, and then people are going to think you're talking about an actual sun, like a man rising off of a
Someone's
cross.
child.
Yeah. Christianity.
Oh, yeah, and did you know that when you say that Venus is a morning star configuration, that it can be misinterpreted as the fallen angel Lucifer falling from
The
like
fallen light.
the fallen light or something like
So
that?
when you hear someone say the sun rising off the cross, they're actually talking about a winter solstice and an astronomical phenomenon.
Wow.
But so you also shared your own personal experience too of like
Yeah, I'll try and be quick here with it. But in a trip to Italy earlier this year, I had started noticing a theme that's actually quite well known, and it's not really secretive. But I started seeing the fixed signs of the zodiac showing up all throughout the Christian churches, and saw it first in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and then saw it in Rome, saw it at St. Peter's, saw it in Florence, and there was even this one little chapel in this monastery that we visited in Florence. They actually had a dome in this little chapel, and on the inside of the dome was the ecliptic band. And they actually had the constellations of Aries through Virgo and several other constellations, but they had the band of the ecliptic inside that dome. And so that was from 1100, which was really before the Renaissance, well before the Renaissance. And it just affirmed for me that the Western exposure to Christianity and the practice of astrology have always been connected. And it was very comforting for me.
And you said those four animals were the eagle, the bull.
The eagle, the bull, the lion, and the man representing Aquarius.
Those are also the four animals you see on the world card. In
The world card
Right.
and
corners.
the Wheel of Fortune.
Really? I didn't know that part.
And the
Yeah.
Wheel of Fortune. And the one difference between the two cards, at least in the deck that I use, which is the Paul Foster Case deck, is that the orientation of the bull in the Wheel of Fortune is outward, and in the world card the orientation of the bull is inward.
Oh.
And so it's manifestation in the world card. What am I building? What am I expanding to? And by the time we get to, or the Wheel of Fortune rather, by the time we get to the world card, it's more of an internal reflection of what I've mastered.
Well, and something you had mentioned, I think it was you in the astrology meetup, was that why are these churches taking on these astrological things? And was it you who said it was popular, or was that you?
Oh, that was me. So, yeah, essentially, the way that Christianity became popular is astrology and occultism were the popular thing at the time. And in order to gain a following, they adapted astrology and even went so far as to, in some denominations, say, oh, well, your baptism is your new birth chart.
Yeah.
You get to change your astrology to something better if you join our religion, which
Love
got
that.
a lot of people pulled in really quickly. And then they demonized it.
In the baptismal at Pisa, It's a beautiful structure right next to the Leaning Tower of Pisa. If you go into this baptismal, on the floor is this huge, beautiful mosaic of the zodiacal wheel in the baptismal.
And that's because they thought that they were redoing your astrology when they baptized you.
Which I guess in a way they are.
They would elect your astrology time so that if you were born under, like, say you had Mars in the first house and you didn't like that, well, hey, you could come follow the word of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and we can change that Mars placement for you.
Yeah, I just feel like astrology, paganism, all the sorts of divination out there are intertwined with like religion, and I think there was good intention behind it. Just at some point in time, certain people, certain structures came in and like used religion as a way to unify, control, and like spread fear. And I do think forms of Christianity were used to like simplify spiritualism and simplify everything into just one being, and then they could use that one being to control others. So I do think, like everything we've talked about, astrology being intertwined with religion has a lot of cultural validation and truth behind it, just it got lost and transformed negatively along the way.
Agreed.
Yeah, great question from that person.
Yeah, and then our next question was also very great. So I talk a lot about inadversions in the astrology meetups, and this was like a return participant. 150-degree and 30-degree aspects in a chart. So essentially, if you have something in Taurus, it'll be the two signs next to it and the two signs next to its opposition. So Libra and Sagittarius, as well as Aries and Cancer.
So
Gemini.
Like from your ascendant, it's a 12th and 2nd house, and then the 6th and 8th house.
Yep, and that's why those are the bad houses.
Yes.
The bad.
Quote unquote, the bad.
Also the hidden, because in those houses, things can't be seen.
And it's just that through you can't see them, that they're inadversion. But Moses, you gave an amazing definition of how you see quincunx versus inconjuncts, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so I think of it like they don't have anything in common, meaning there's nothing about their triplicity or quadruplicity that line up.
Or their polarity.
Or their polarity, right? So, for example, Scorpio and Gemini are in a quincunx relationship to each other. Scorpio, in many ways, is about depth and diving deep from a emotional and spiritual standpoint and perspective. Then you have Gemini, which is more about less interpretation and more just observation. So they don't see each other and they don't share a common purpose. But when you learn how to marry them together, you actually gain more completion and you become more well-rounded. It's just learning how to embrace or integrate those seemingly opposite qualities into each other.
I always relate it to like a car when you're driving. You've got the 30-degree blind spots where your windshield meets your driver's side or passenger side door, and like that's really only like a problem when pedestrians are crossing the street and you're also turning a corner, or things like that of that nature. There's like a weird random object in the middle of the road. The 150-degree blind spots, though, are a lot where motorcycle deaths happen, where people get cut off really badly, where car crashes are really more prone to happen, because those 150-degree blind spots are behind you. So I always see the difference between, like, an inconjunct versus quincunxes as just a level of, like, is this a slight annoyance, or is this, like, a deadly annoyance? Like, if you don't double-check it, and it's something so simple as just, like, meeting them where they're at kind of jazz. And checking that area, finding something that connects to your chart. I always say find like a pivot point. So with your example, if you have something in, let me look at a chart for like 3 seconds. If you have something in Leo that's able to square Scorpio as well as sextile Gemini, so you can use that Leo placement to kind of be able to be that communicator between those two energies for you, if that makes sense. And that's at least how I use them in astrology.
Yeah, for like the 150-degree, it's always a really big area of like discomfort and tension, and I see it a lot because it's in between the opposition and the trine. If we're talking about things from the ascendant perspective, the opposition would be the 7th house, the trine would be the 9th house, but we're talking about that 8th house area, that part in between. I've noticed that energy can get very stuck but supercharged, so you build up a lot of energy, and then it's like you can't really channel it anywhere until eventually you snap. You snap into that trine, or you snap into that opposition. And I kind of relate to that because as an 8th houser, there have been a select few of times in my life where I've absolutely lost it and snapped, and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I need to figure out how to channel this energy better. So, yeah, if you do have a lot of like 150 or 30 degrees in your chart, it can be a lot of tension, energy, and discomfort, and you really need to look at mitigating factors and to learn how to channel it.
I've noticed like a lot of the times when I've found people whose charts they don't really like each other or they have strong reactions to each other, that 150 degree aspect is like really prominent because they literally can't understand each other's perspectives. But simultaneously, like, I used to use astrology on my whole ass team when I was working as a manager.
As you should. I do too. I did my coworkers, I got all of them saved in my little Astro Gold.
Absolutely. When I would partner those two people together in a project or something, they would hate it, but then they would make the best work together because completely opposite perspectives just form something that wouldn't be formed if it were in a trine or a more supportive aspect.
Yeah, because if you pair two people that have a lot of trines, there would be like a good product, but it wouldn't be like pushing the bar necessarily. They would rely on the comfortability of having similar ideas.
And there's no friction. That
Right.
sort of
That's
like
why I
sharpens
like
the
all your
sword.
Pisces energy, pal. My Aquarius rising is like, you do shit that I can't,
Damn.
you know?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. I love that insight.
Yeah,
That was
I love
perfect.
that.
Beautifully said. Beautifully spoken.
Wonderful. Well, and we only have one more last topic, right?
Well, yeah, and it ties into using astrology through your business. So our last question was from a participant, Danny, who was just dealing with a lot of business concerns and wanted to know our insights about their business endeavors and what they were going through. And Moses' first question was, when did you start your business? Would you like me to pull up that chart? I'll get that.
Yeah.
Sorry. I have the date on here, but I don't have the transits.
Or the time, right?
Yeah. Well, when we had Danny's just natal chart up, I was thinking the troubles in their like job, the business that she owns, was relating to the Saturn transit as well as the Libra or the Mars transit in Libra. If I'm remembering correctly, I think Libra rules her 11th house. No, her 5th. And she has Aries in the 11th because she is a Gemini rising. Yeah. But yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so I would say first off, when you're looking at a business chart, get your date. Know your date that you're starting your business. And here's the thing, there are many dates. When you form in the LLC can be one. When you first officially create your business card, if that's a significant date for you, because that's how you're kicking off your business, there's no wrong answer, but usually there will be one or two charts that really resonate with the vibe of the business overall and match really well. In this case, one of the first things I looked at and noticed with her chart is she started her business when the moon was in Aquarius, right on top of her midheaven. And that Saturn transit that we were talking about, as it goes into Aries, it's entering her 11th house. So with the moon in the 9th, that tells me that international markets are going to be beneficial or profitable for her, and certainly that's what she was going through. Saturn ruling the 11th, moving into Aries, Saturn ruling the 9th, moving into Aries, with the 11th house ruling her audience. That was another standpoint that just sort of led to this interpretation of, okay, we need to get serious about who is our audience, how do we market to them, how do we use social media to our advantage, with the 11th house ruling social media networks, and how do we tie that back to the underlying culture that's coming from that 9th house moon.
Totally.
I feel like a lot of the insight that we also gave her is that, like, with that Mars Saturn jazz, it's not meant to be a time where you figure everything else out right away and where you're doing all of the big things. This is like an internalizing, seeing where all your steps are, taking it slow, slowing it down, because Saturn and Mars together are definitely going to slow shit down, and you're going to feel really stuck in that slow movement, but use that for the best of your efforts. Because I think Sara had brought up how that's going to be the first hit, but it will hit, like, again. And I think Danny had asked what, that second, because it's not done or over with yet, what that would look like. And it might just be, like, maybe not necessarily the same exact slowness that she's experiencing now by the time that Saturn directly transits over her Mars at 2 degrees of Aries. Because it didn't even get close. It got close, but it didn't go directly over. So when it actually goes over, that might be a time where she like really just spends almost like a hermit card moment, just internalizing it, finding that inner guidance, finding the best paths for her business.
Yeah, and natally she has an 11th house Mars in Aries, and currently Saturn and Neptune are like going over that. No, it's not exact, but it is a degree way, so I find a lot of importance in that. But to me, that's like Saturn going into Aries in her 11th. It's like kind of really just slowing down and figuring out like what her customers, her audience, her demographic needs, and like what they're wanting to buy. Taking time to slow down and figure that out. However, the ruler of all this, Mars, is currently in detriment in Libra in her 5th. So I'm thinking, like, are you even having fun with, like, these products that you're creating? How can you bring more joy and just pleasure into this candle making? It's a candle company.
Well, you gave, like, a lot of really great advice for that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and then at one moment, I kind of realized we kept talking about Aries, Mars, fire, and air. And I'm like, hold on. I'm like, what kind of wicks are you using? Are you doing wood wicks, tri-wicks? Are you selling lighters? Rose, you mentioned incense. So, yeah, I think everything we said was really great advice.
I think it was a great discussion overall. I think a lot of people were really engaging in the conversation. We not only were like pulling up a lot of charts for natal interpretation, but also getting a lot of like crowd participation in that interpretation, not only panelist participation. I feel like you guys gave excellent insights, gave people like complex, more understandings into deeper assets of astrology that we don't always cover every month. So I feel like it was a great way. And then hopefully you guys got a nice little platform out of it too.
Well, it was also really fun because like I would mention something in my perspective, and then one of you guys would be like, but check this out. And I'm like, I didn't even see that. I'm like, that was crazy. So it was just really fun to share all of our perspectives together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for putting it all together. That was
Thanks
awesome.
for being part of it.
Such a good experience.
Thanks for sharing your
And if you get a
wisdom.
chance to speak at the podcast or in the meetup, do it.
Yay! Yeah. And you can find us all individually. Obviously, we all are, again, professional astrologers. So if you vibed with one of us in particular, we're going to go in a circle really quick and just tell you where you can book with us. My name is Bren. You can book with me at fortuneofthefool.com. Oh, and all of this will be linked in the show notes as well.
My name is Moses, and you can book with me through stan.store/Jupiter's Market.
And I'm Sean, and you can connect with me at sean@futurepacenow.com.
My name is Zane Neville, and you can connect with me at Neville Astrology. Link is down in the description. You can go to Instagram, and the link is in the bio there as well.
And then I am Rosalie, and you can find me at astrorosalie.com. And you can find us collectively at Denver Astro Meetup on all socials.
Yeah.
So
And Sara will be linked somewhere too if you want to. I know she wasn't here.
the
but-
Divine Field. And I also want to, on that note, also sit down with Star Costello as well, who is a local Denver astrologer who I tried to get a part of this panel, but they're just too busy with school. So I'm going to try to find out time to, and also Rashawn, who's also a Denver astrology group local. He works at the Pearl as a astrology diviner some days of the week. So I'm going to try to catch him when he's got an off day as well. So
Cool.
look forward to some more faces on this channel here soon, hopefully.
Lots of great things happening.
Fingers crossed it all
Yeah.
works out. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Bye,
Catch you
Bye,
next
guys.
one.